Here we are once again, my brothers and sisters. I want to thank you for your attendance at another Living Hope Today study. And today we find ourselves in 2 Samuel chapter 14. Now, one thing we're going to notice as we go through the story of David is that David is a great king. He does what God tells him to do for the most part. He takes care of his people. He's excellent. But in his own personal moral life and his own personal family life, things aren't always quite as good. We've seen him take Bathsheba and commit adultery with her and then eliminate her husband Uriah through a devious plan of military might. We've seen him be confronted by the prophet Nathan and confess his sin. That's really good. But then God has told him this. Let me show you. God has said to him through the prophet Nathan, if you remember way back when in 2 Samuel 12, now therefore the sword will never depart from your house because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. So we know that David's in for severe consequence based on his disobedience. Okay. Well, you get to chapter 13, what happens? David's son rapes his daughter. And what does David do? Scripture records that David's upset, but he doesn't do anything. That daughter that got raped, her name is Tamar, and it happens that she's the sister of Absalom, and Absalom doesn't forget. He doesn't do anything for a couple years, but he finds a way to get Amnon separated, and he kills him or has him killed. More trouble. Absalom flees. What does David do? Well, he's upset, but he doesn't do much. And look how the text continues as the story unfolds. Joab, that's David's military commander, son of Zeruiah. I wish I could say these names better, please excuse me. Knew that the king's heart longed for Absalom. Okay, so we know that he misses him. So Joab sent someone to Tekoa and had a wise woman brought from there. He said to her, pretend you are in mourning, dress in mourning clothes, and don't use any cosmetic lotions. Act like a woman who spent many days grieving for the dead. Now, remember, when Nathan confronted David, what did he do? Well, he came up with sort of a parable, a story about a rich man and a poor man, and how the rich man took the poor man's only lamb. Well, now we see David, he's about to be confronted with another story. This one originates through Joab, but the wise woman that's been selected is going to go to tell David a story to get his reaction. Joab tells her, then go to the king and speak these words to him. And Joab put the words in her mouth. He told her what to say. When the woman from Tekoa went to the king, she fell with her face to the ground to pay him honor, and she said, help me, O king. Now we know that this is all just made up from here in terms of the story. The king asked her, what is troubling you? And she said, I am indeed a widow. My husband is dead. Your servant had 2 sons. They got into a fight with each other in the field, and no one was there to separate them. One struck the other and killed him. Okay, so we lost a husband, and we lost one of the 2 sons in this made-up story. All right, she goes on. Now the whole clan has risen up against your servant. They say, hand over the one who struck his brother down so that we may put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed. Then we will get rid of the heir as well. In other words, they're going to take the property. They would put out the only burning coal I have left, leaving my husband neither name nor descendants on the face of the earth. So there's the story. David, you need to do something. I know that murder is judged by capital punishment, but this is my only son. Isn't there any other way? Can't we fix this some other way? Well, the story goes on. The king said to the woman, go home, and I will issue an order in your behalf. So David's saying, yeah, okay, I'll grant your request. We'll make sure this only son of yours is not killed. But the woman from Tekoa said to him, my lord the king, let the blame rest on me and on my father's family, and let the king and his throne be without guilt. Watch this. The king replied, if anyone says anything to you, bring him to me, and he will not bother you again. What's happening? Well, they have this thing called the avenger of blood, the one in the family who avenges the murder of one of the members of the family, right? She said, then let the king invoke the Lord his God to prevent the avenger of blood from adding to the destruction. What does that mean? It means he's going to come kill my last son if you don't intervene, king. Let's go, so that my son will not be destroyed. As surely as the Lord lives, he said, this is David, not one hair of your son's head will fall to the ground. What's happening here? Well, David's willing to forsake protocol and the rules to protect her last son, even though her last son has murdered his brother. Anything in David's family where there was a brother murdered by another brother? David didn't do anything about that, but now that he's talking to this lady, well, he is presented with this hypothetical story. Now he's willing to do something. Okay, David. Then the woman said, let your servant speak a word to my lord the king. Speak, he replied. Here we go. Here comes the confrontation. The woman said, why then have you devised a thing like this against the people of God? When the king says this, does he not convict himself? For the king has not brought back his banished son. Oh, hey, David, this well-crafted story presented by this wise woman from Tekoa has just trapped you. You haven't brought Absalom back, have you? You haven't done anything in your own family. You've judged what I wanted to hear in my hypothetical story. Well, that son who killed his brother isn't going to be executed, but what about your son? Like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be recovered, so we must die. But God does not take away life. Instead, he devises ways so that a banished person may not remain estranged from him. Look at this, David. Why aren't we worried about Absalom? And now I have come to say this to my lord the king, because the people have made me afraid. Your servant thought, I will speak to the king. Perhaps he will do what his servant asks. Perhaps the king will agree to deliver his servant from the hand of the man who is trying to cut off both me and my son from the inheritance God gave us. And now your servant says, may the word of my lord the king bring me rest. For my lord the king is like an angel of God in discerning good and evil. May the Lord your God be with you. King, you're doing it right in terms of my story, but you're not doing it right in terms of your own son. You're a good king, but you're a bad dad. Then the king said to the woman, do not keep from me the answer to what I am going to ask you. Let the Lord the king speak, the woman said. So now David's going to ask her some things. Isn't the hand of Joab with you in all this? So David's wisdom surfaces here. He understands he just got set up. The woman answered, as surely as you live, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right or to the left from anything my lord the king says. Yes, it was your servant Joab who instructed me to do this, and who will put all these words into the mouth of your servant. In other words, okay, king, none of this was really happening, but Joab put me up to it and I followed through. Your servant Joab did this to change the present situation. My Lord has wisdom like that of an angel of God. He knows everything that happens in the land. And the king said to Joab. So now the focus has moved from David and the woman to David and Joab. Very well, I will do it. Go bring back the young man Absalom. Okay, I judged rightly in this lady's hypothetical story. I feel the conviction. She trapped me in the story, and I went the way that was the right way to solve her problem. I guess I better go the right way to solve my family problem too. Go get Absalom. All right. Joab fell with his face to the ground to pay him honor and blessed the king. Joab said, "Today your servant knows that he has found favor in your eyes, my lord the king, because the king has granted his servant's request." And Joab went to Geshur and brought Absalom back to Jerusalem. And we're waiting now for this big reunion and happy occurrence where father and son are reunited. But what does David do? Then Absalom said, "If not, please let my brother Amnon come with us." Oh, I missed something in that verse. But the king said, "He must go to his own house. He must not see my face." What? What? So Absalom went to his own house and he did not see the face of the king. Are you serious? So you went through all that, David, to bring him back, but you're not going to talk to him? You're going to put him off to the side somewhere? In all Israel, there was not a man so highly praised for his handsome appearance as Absalom. From the top of his head to the sole of his foot, there was no blemish in him. What are we talking about? According to the populace, Absalom was very good looking, very appealing. Whenever he cut the hair of his head, he used to cut his hair from time to time. When it became too heavy for him, he would weigh it, and its weight was 200 shekels by the royal standard. In other words, Absalom has a full head of hair. 3 sons and a daughter were born to Absalom. The daughter's name was, what? Tamar. Oh, that's the name of his sister who was raped by Amnon, his brother. And she became a beautiful woman. All right, Absalom lived 2 years in Jerusalem without seeing the king's face. And just think about that. Oh, the king came for me because Joab forced the issue. And now that I'm back in Jerusalem, the king doesn't want to see me. I mean, what's up, right? Absalom's offended, more than a little offended. Watch this. Then Absalom sent for Joab. Okay, if the king's not going to talk to me, Joab's the one that brought me down here. Let me talk to Joab in order to send him to the king. But Joab refused to come to him. So Absalom now has been ostracized by the king and by Joab. So he sent a second time, but he refused to come. All right, so Absalom's made some gestures that would say, let's get this reconciliation going, but he's been refused at every point. Then he said to his servants, so Joab is, if he can't get positive attention, he's going to get negative attention. Look, Joab's field is next to mine. Absalom is thinking about how he's going to solve his problem, and he has barley there, so go set it on fire. Yeah, let's burn down Joab's field. That might get his attention. He might want to talk to me after that. So Absalom's servants set the field on fire. Then Joab did go to Absalom's house. Oh, so Absalom figured out a way to get Joab to pay attention to him. And he said to him, why have your servants set my field on fire? Yeah, I bet he's pretty upset. Absalom said to Joab, look, I sent word to you and said, come here, so I can send you to the king to ask, why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me if I were still there. Now then, I want to see the king's face. And if I'm guilty of anything, let him put me to death. All right, if he wants to judge me for what I did to Amnon, I don't care. But let's go. He's still my father, right? Joab went to the king and told him this. And then the king summoned Absalom. And he came in and bowed down with his face to the ground before the king. And the king kissed Absalom. So by the end of chapter 14, we do get to some kind of reunion. But look what happened. And think about the animosity that's developed because, number one, David himself took no action against Amnon when Amnon raped Tamar. Absalom waited 2 years and then he took action against Amnon by killing him. All right, he goes into exile because he's afraid he's killed his brother. The avenger of blood might be after him. He might be the one executed for that crime. But as it turns out, the king is willing to receive him, but not for a long time after he's returned to Jerusalem. In other words, David's personal life he's making decisions that are setting him up for terrible failure. And we're going to watch this family unravel even more as David continues to miss the cues that would cause him to make good decisions as a father. Very insightful in terms of our own lives, that we need to pay attention that we do right in public and that we do right in private too. We treat our family with the same love and respect God requires of us on the outside. We need to pay attention to the inside as well. Well, we'll take it there next time. God bless you, church. Serve him well.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who he is? He's the image of the invisible God, and he's the brightness of his glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.